Unfortunately, none of the mail from our in-depth mailbag made it onto the freeway today, which is a plus. We got a really good mailbag segment for you tonight. Probably one of my favorite questions we've ever gotten. It's something I'm really excited about. Forgive me for that. Little foreshadowing there, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. I do want to start tonight by sharing some feedback we got about the Dreamville Festival in Raleigh. So it was this past weekend in Dix Park, Drone 5 giving this awesome shot above the stage there. We thought it was going to be the very last one. People were sad about that, but no, organizers said, hey, look, we reached a deal with the city. We have a new deal. We're going to bring this event back for 4 more years. Just one thing though, they're changing the name. Same organizers, just a bit of a branding refresh. They didn't say what the new name was going to be yet, so we asked you for some suggestions, and maybe the organizers are listening. Who knows? Let's let them know what we're thinking. Brenda said Raleigh Dream Festival. Pretty close to the original there, Brenda, but you could save a fortune. You could save a fortune on signage. You just paint over the Ville part. I think it's really smart. Judd emailed and said Yumaville. Why, he said? Why, you ask? Yuma is the Japanese word for dream. Sneaky, huh? I'd say it's creative. I'm not sure why we're using Japanese, but I like it. Judd, thank you. But here's my favorite. Jerry wants to call it Woodstock 2. Jerry, here's the thing, man. They already had a Woodstock 2. Right? It was called Woodstock 94. It was a big deal. Even WRAL covered it back in the day. We found some video of the festival in the archive. 350,000 people showed up. It wasn't as good as the first one. It wasn't nearly as bad as Woodstock 99, which was technically Woodstock 3. So we would have to rename this one Woodstock 4. And now we're just getting ahead of it. It's just too much, Jerry. But I do appreciate the throwback. Let's move on to a good question I got about GLP-1 drugs. You know, those are the weight loss drugs like Wegovy and Zepbound. Ron asked this when he said, let's look at who ends up paying for it. If the state starts covering the cost of it again, who will pay? So to put it simply, the state health plan is funded by our tax dollars. The money just comes from different pools. For example, local tax dollars fund county governments, and those budgets pay for the premiums of county employees. Then a different pool of tax dollars, the income tax, funds the agencies like the Department of Transportation, and that budget pays premiums for DOT employees. So you're kind of following the way it works. State workers do sometimes pay into the health plan themselves if they want to cover their kids or their family members, that sort of thing. And premiums can fluctuate. DHHS wrote in its 2023 annual report, quote, if expenses are higher than projected, the required premium in the next year will be higher than originally projected. Now, the opposite is also true. If expenses are lower than expected, then premiums come down. And this is why North Carolina had to stop covering GLP-1 drugs for everybody, because expenses were just too high. Premiums would have exploded through the roof. State Treasurer Brad Briner is in charge of the state health plan. We talked about this. He wants to bring back the coverage for those weight loss drugs, just with a more targeted approach. But that said, premiums are going up with or without those weight loss drugs. Healthcare costs are going up across the board. And Briner told me that the plan is to raise premiums for the state health plan workers and try to get more money in next year's state budget.
We're asking the General Assembly for money. We're asking for over $100 million of incremental appropriation this year. I'm hopeful we get it. So whether we call that a COVID reimbursement or we call that ongoing appropriation, I don't really care. I care that the state health plan is being supported by the legislature.
We're asking everyone across the board for more money, so I suspect we're going to upset everyone, at least a little bit. I hope that they will understand the situation we find ourselves in. I hope they will understand that they are not alone. I hope they'll understand that the General Assembly is kicking in a lot of money, that the providers are providing some money too.
All right. Let's move on now to one of my favorite questions that we've received in a while. It has to do with the price of eggs. Kathy wrote, a family pack of chicken leg quarters at my local grocery store is $3 to $4, but a dozen eggs are $6 plus. Just curious how this bird flu can be so selective and the price difference between the chicken and the egg. So first of all, Kathy, I'm not sure where you're finding this family-sized pack of chicken for $3. Maybe I need to start shopping in your neighborhood. But she is right. Bird flu jacked up the price of eggs, but not necessarily the price of chicken. So between January of 2020, this past February, the price of a carton of eggs went from $1.46 on average to $4.95. But for a pound of chicken breasts in that same time frame, the price went from just $3.06 to just $3.97. So egg prices high, meat prices low. But what gives? Same bird, right? What's the deal? Well, not exactly. Back to that chicken graphic for a moment. There are two types of chickens out there. You got your layers and you got your broilers. They are both chickens, but technically they are different birds with different genetics. A layer takes about 5 months to get to the point of laying eggs, and they'll be laying eggs for about a year. The broiler, on the other hand, takes about a month and a half to reach market weight, and then they're donezo, off to be, part of Kathy's family pack of leg quarters. When the bird flu outbreak got real bad, farmers had to kill off about 19 million layers, but only 2 million broilers. And that's why the chicken has been cheaper than the egg. Makes sense, doesn't it? Tough to beat that question, but I encourage you to try and top it. Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. What questions do you want answered here at 7 o'clock? What stories do you want to see us tackle here on the news? We will go after anything, trust me, as long as it's interesting. Sometimes more controversial, the better, if you watch us on this 7 o'clock news hour. We will go in depth. Just let us know what's on your mind.